As Diane said, we're going to talk today about Foldr, but specifically the Captur bolt-on. This is the second of this series of very fast refreshes on Foldr. I would say there is an awful lot to this product. It's a huge amount of detail to this product. You aren't going to get the real, the real depth of it in 30 minutes, especially when we've got intros to cover and things like that. So please do take a look at our YouTube channels or wherever they are. You can find them on our Selectec website with all of the things we've covered before, or do reach out to an account manager and we can organize one-on-one demos and explanations. This will be a real whistle stop, and my strategy to make the best use of the time is to talk really fast. So maybe when you get the recording, just play that slower. That may work. I don't know. So we're going to move really quite quickly. Again, we did a webinar a few weeks ago, which was a very, very fast, too fast actually, introduction to the core product. So let's just take a little bit of a look just to refresh you. Foldr been with us for more than a decade. They are a UK organization. They are actually headquartered in Bristol. So if you know what the accent is, then suddenly it will make a load more sense. Yeah, we've supported over 1 million users. Is a best kept secret. You've probably never heard of it, but the odds are you might have even used it without knowing that you have. It's a very, very stable product, and over the last few years we've introduced a load of bolt-ons. So the last time we talked about Foldr Core. That's the kind of thing that gives you access to all of your data and documents and files, regardless of where you store it. And we talked about sharing, we talked about searching, all of the amazing things that Foldr can do on the data in the place that you already have it, as opposed to having to make use of a different architecture and different infrastructure. And today we're coming over, I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer, I hope you can. We're going to talk about this bolt-on on the right, the Captur bolt-on. So let's take a little bit of a look. Like I said, we're going to be moving quite fast. So if you don't get what I'm saying, feel free to put your hand up, put it in the Q&A thing, or reach out to an account manager and we will do this for you slower. So just as a very, very fast recap, Foldr, we stick this Foldr umbrella into the organization that needs it, either hosted or on premise. We open the umbrella and the prongs of Foldr stick into all of the infrastructure that the business or organization has, be that their security platforms, be that their user pools, be that their device management pools, all of that good stuff, and notably their storage. So headliners in here. We can start to work with SharePoint because everybody loves SharePoint, whether we do or not. All right, everybody loves a bit of Google. Everybody loves Microsoft 365. They might use some AWS, some Amazon Web Services stuff. You might be a bit of an old schooler and still, like me, use a bit of Dropbox or a bit of Box. You might even have Windows servers still in a cupboard in the back or under a desk somewhere. And so Foldr is hooking into all of these elements and giving us the ability to drive these custom shares, as Foldr calls us, which means that we can segregate our data and find it regardless of how long we've had it or where it's stored. And the reason I'm refreshing you on this is you might recall let's just look at this file, for example. Even though this file is existing in Windows or Dropbox or SharePoint or Google Drive, Foldr gives us the ability to have metadata values, these field values that allow us to power searches and workflows, compliance requirements, anything like that. Okay, now this is unique to Foldr's ability to put these fields on files regardless of where they lay, and to be able to retrospectively apply those as well. Okay, we had to give you a bit of backstory simply because these fields become really important when we think about the Captur bolt-on. Okay, so I'm going to do my best, by the way, guys, to not be jumping around between different windows, but I can't promise much. So do me a favor as well, Diane. If I'm saying something that doesn't look like the screen I'm talking about, it's because I forgot to share a different window. So perhaps let me know. And I've gone blurry, haven't I? Webcam moment. There we go. Right, guys, Captur. We have field values in Foldr. Regardless of the type of document, regardless of the type of file, we can put fields on things. And the minute we put fields into Foldr, then our customers went, that's great. Please, can you automatically populate those fields? Which means that the system needs to know the type of document that it's looking at. And the most logical way to start that, and Diane mentioned AI, so we're going to get there, but we're going to build up to it through all the other whizzy things that we can do with Captur. So let's take a little bit of a look here. So you're looking at the admin area of the Foldr appliance. Okay, you're looking, if you like, behind the curtain or under the skirt, whatever you want to say. That's probably not suitable, is it? But there we go. Let's take a look. So this is the kind of document that we were looking at. Now, Foldr's Captur engine gives us the ability to use template design to extract information as a starter. I do promise we will talk about AI later on as well, because I know kind of older school. So let's just take a little bit of a look at exactly what we're talking about. Actually, let's decide that we want to find something that looks like invoice number. And you can see there, if I create that, we're doing this live, by the way, so it's a bit like Blue Peter. If it goes wrong, then there's, you know, there's nothing to see here. And you can see that I could look for the marker that says invoice number, and that can move anywhere on the document. And then I could say that is the value, and then I could hook that to that. And before you know it, I've got a link up, and wherever this happens, this will happen. And this is the critical piece. I can choose which of my fields on my system to write that in. So now I can do things like data extraction for accounts payable and throw those values into my accounts application. We use this internally. We use the Zero accounts application. We've used others and we write them in. So this is a very simple, I need to know that value to put it in my account software, move on with your life. Okay, and that means you don't have to type that stuff in. But because we like designing things, we also started to go a bit of a step further. So we started to be able to take a little bit of an understanding of what kind of thing we were looking at in terms of extracting data. We built Captur to be able to find very unusual or unstructured little pieces of data or things that are kind of happening. So as an example, I'm going to work here on lines, and I'm going to say I have iteration, and I would like to limit it, by the way, to just the second line to extract whatever might be there. Now, you may have seen documents occasionally where you see the address box and actually there's a gap and the postcode always arrives in the same place. And there's systems like 365 Dynamics, SAP, well, we could go on forever, that produce these elements where the data always arrives in the same space regardless of what that looks like. It's very difficult to capture that when it moves. So Foldr has the ability to iterate through bits and pieces. We can find values like that. I could even start to do stuff like line item extraction. Now, if there's anyone on this call that has played with these type of systems before, you'll know how complicated organizing lines is. I think that's 6. There we go. Can't count this morning. So this is how easy it is for Foldr to be able to extract column information or line item information. So we can actually see exactly what grid, what column goes where. Now, there's a few unique things. We're only Capture nerds that are on here. Bear this one in mind, guys. We can automatically set the width of those columns because now more than ever, we're starting to see documents where these things vary. They always used to be very fixed. They used to be fixed because we used to print the invoices on the piece of paper first and then throw the variable data on. That stuff doesn't exist anymore. It's all dynamic. So we're now seeing quite a lot of instances where column widths change and even the justification changes. These lines don't line up. They center justify where there's additional lines. And all of these things make Captur very, very difficult to use. And one thing where they really do fail is AI. Okay, AI doesn't get on with that very well at all, which is where we're finding that even though template style extraction is actually a little bit of an older technology, and it absolutely is, it gives us the capability, certainly when paired with OCR extraction with AI, to drive things that are really not that capable with fixed AI endpoints. All right, so template extraction. Now that's all very well, but these tables, you can see this is dynamic. You know, this isn't dynamic. This has been dragged exactly here. But let's take a look at a customer example. I'm hoping you can see that. And this is a unique feature of Foldr. This is Foldr producing multiple tables. You can see there, there's what, 5 different tables. And Foldr has the ability to pull all of those disparate elements into a single line item. That's really, really difficult to do with a traditional capture engine. And indeed, if you were to throw this against the AWS TextRact engine, for example, it would struggle with that data extraction. So this is table extraction and extremely powerful table extraction happening within the Captur tool. How are we doing time-wise, Diane? We doing all right? I think so. That was a nod and smile. Right, fine. Okay. So groovy. Now let's take a little bit of a look and do something slightly different. This is all very well, but Damien, what happens if I'm looking for a thing and I don't know where it is, but I know what it is and what have you? So we can drive around those bits. So let's actually do something live, which is a bit scary. Didn't really remember how to do regex. There we go. That is me showing off, I think. I think it's 6. Is it 6? 2, 3. No, it's 8. Well, let's fix that. There we go. And let's finish my regex. I think it goes very smoothly. There you go. So if you see it, I created a little bit of regular expression there. That's about as complicated as I get. There is a fantastic thing we call Gemini or ChatGPT, if you want to write these the easy way. That regex is looking for a pattern, and in this case I know my purchase order is an 8-character digit, decimal string. There we go, a digit string. So I don't need to know the number, I just need to know what it looks like. Okay, so Foldr has the ability to extract these regexes. We can even start to look for a regex near a marker. So we could say, look for the characters PO or purchase order, and then look around that for a value like this, unstructured content via regex. Now, where does that become useful? Let's take a bit of a look over here. Okay, so here we go. Here's a good example. Let me just steal a regex. Here's one I made earlier, chaps. Right, okay, let's add a box zone here. So you might be looking for case reference numbers. You might be in professional service, you might be looking for your client code, you might be looking for a matter code, you might be looking for a reference number, a national insurance number, a bank account number, a sort code, anything like that. And you can see that with these structures, we can start to look for those. Now, let's remember that Foldr can deal with data that's already in place. And it can deal with data that doesn't have a text layer as well. It can OCR those documents in place. So let's suggest you've been scanning correspondence for the last however many years, and it's not content searchable, but we want to know if it's got a case reference number in it. Then let's apply Foldr to that. Or let's receive emails into Foldr and see what that can do for us and see if we can extract those values and start to drive them around. We can even start to think about this rather than just finding and matching things like matter codes and client codes and reference numbers and all of those good things. What happens if we wanted to do something around compliance, for example? So here we go. This is an inbuilt search by Foldr. There are a number of these regexes already built for things like telephone numbers, zip codes, postal codes, and you can see here credit card numbers. So if I look at this, you can see this is valid, and it's telling me on page 3, it's shown to be there in the middle of a Shakespeare play. I've wedged in a credit card number. And so if you think about this, what I could do is I could run this template against all of the structures, anything that outside of my secure EDM, for example, anything I've got washing around people's home folders or people's desktop folders, or indeed their 365 accounts, or whatever that might be, and pull back anything that's got, in this case, credit card details in them, because you really don't want the FCA or anybody else knocking on the door because you're not financially compliant. Things like that are expensive. Just like GDPR, we talked about that last time around, there's lots of compliance elements that you really need to be able to extract these bits on. And again, with AI, what I need to be doing is submitting whole files and folders to endpoint engines, which cost me money, whereas I could be driving templates with these unstructured components built into them as we go, making this thing fast and efficient, and I don't need to submit it to the outside world if I don't want to. Okay. What else can we do here? Well, let's take a bit of a look at this. Which tab? Here we go. This is a bit of another thing. Let's take a look at another piece of data that can start to do this. Because we wanted that, we can actually say that this is a marker element. You can see this one's valid because it's got a signature within that space. This could be a tick box, it could be a marker point, it could be anything, and that could be digitally assigned. It could be a wet signature feedback. So let's suggest I throw something to an e-signature platform and I get the response back. I'd actually like to know, and you can see here I could say that if it is marked, yeah, I can say that it's signed, and if it is unmarked, there we go, I can say that it is unsigned. So now I've got mark recognition. Foldr will also handle barcodes for us, and all of the rules that we look at with regex, with placement, with hooking, with iterators, all of that stuff is applied to our signature boxes, it's applied to our barcodes, it's applied to all of the data we have. And again, This can be running on files which are either new or legacy, and they are existing in Windows servers, they're existing in Microsoft 365, SharePoint, online and premise. They could be in Google Drive, Amazon Web Services, AWS, S3 buckets, anywhere you like, Box, Dropbox, wherever it is that you might want. And if you remember from the last session where we were talking about internal and external sharing, where I can let my external customers or external partners upload content, then I could apply these templates straight away. So imagine that I am dealing, for example, with a school or a college, and we need signed permission slips to come back in. I can have those delivered into a share, and I can check whether or not they've got a signature on them, and then mark them as signed or not signed. There we go. So that's that kind of stuff that's actually happening within the file. There's a couple of different bits. Where are we? 5 minutes, really, roughly, to chinwag. So let's take a bit more of a look around a couple of other things. We did mention the magic AI, and let's be honest, nobody's interested unless you say the words AI somewhere in a presentation, whether it's relevant or not. Just throw in AI at the end, and you've got people looking. Let's take a little bit of a look as to what's going on, why Captur is a little bit different than most tools in this space. Okay, so if I actually come into this particular share, this is where we configure the storage. So in this case, this is looking at a lump of Windows storage, and that's where my accounts payable documents are. But if I come in here and I come into settings, you will see that a couple of things happen. First of all, I can choose how I want to process things. I can choose what index data I want to store. This is very, very important because all of this very granular control is very, very different than it would be in normal spaces. But if I take a look here, you can see that firstly, Foldr can use the text layer that's already within documents. Now, normally the type of capture that you just saw with templates and extraction means that I need to use OCR or optical character recognition technology, whether I want to or not. And things like, is that an O or is it a 0? Is it a 1? Is it an I? A Z or a 2? All of those things become problematic with OCR, regardless of how good it is. With Foldr, we're using the text layer as possible. So we are using the actual content, which means we don't have those errors. And it also makes the system very, very fast. And that means our templates can be much more accurate and much more efficiently applied to that backlog of data that you've already got. But here's a real kicker for you. Foldr has the inbuilt Tesseract OCR engine. We're seeing this used all over the place with products now. It's getting better, but it's very good on content. But we can also use AI endpoints. You can set up an AWS Tesseract or a Google Cloud Vision account for yourself. In fact, as we get next week's session or next session, whenever that is, Diane will be able to tell you, we can talk about endpoints and APIs and the ability with the MASH engine, the other bolt-on, to interact with those. But in terms of image processing, there are built-in links to AWS's Tesseract backend. And that means that we can get the power of AI extraction, full-page content extraction, and still use our super powerful, super featured template extraction engine. And that's kind of unique. Well, not kind of is. Well, it isn't. It can't be kind of. Anyway, that you get my point. So that's kind of where we are with full page AI driving templates, which is remarkable. But this wouldn't be even remotely relevant if we didn't just go full AI, would it? We've got to do a little bit of that. So templates are marvelous, and in the right place, they are really, really powerful. Okay. However, as we introduce, I'm just going to duplicate this because time-wise, I know that it's going to behave. There we go. I'm going to duplicate a file here. So I'm going to pretend that this document has arrived, okay? And I'm hoping, because I haven't had time to test this morning, Foldr is sending this invoice file directly out to an API extraction engine. You can see there that whilst I was talking, the server-side event has popped up. And again, this is a really strong feature of Foldr, is this ability for us to message the customer about what's happening with a file that they are looking at, if somebody else modifies it, or in this case, an AI engine modifies it. And you can see there was no template applied to this. This was actually sent directly to that endpoint, and it's populated these values and these numbers. So if I click refresh now, you'll see that without a template, full AI extraction, there is the invoice number, the purchase order number, didn't need to regex that one, did we? Net VAT totals, and you can choose these values, by the way, and we'll just pop out a couple of these so you can see what we've looked at. There we go. And I can see that there's a table which is the contents of the line items off of the invoice. A very simple document, but the useful thing for this is if you've ever played with AI, you will know that it's great, but you can't train LMs unless it's a private LM that you're playing with or it's a funded model. Okay, so with Foldr, we can use that full AI full page extraction, we can use AI endpoints, and we can combine the two. So actually I could have AI extraction that's looking for the general tags, and we can use all of them, by the way, but we could also add our own custom components. Having the ability to use AI full page extraction is great because it means that we've got that high quality extraction, but it will work on things that aren't traditionally driven for specific AI endpoints. We use this a lot for logistics documents, for example, or construction documents, or even legal documents. So we've got the benefits of both. You can have full onboard text extraction with templates, and if you do a lot of the same kind of document, that's a really valuable thing to do. Or if you're using it from a compliance perspective, make sure there's no finance details in here, no medical record details, no nothing, because that's where most GDPR problems and FCA problems come from, is someone can't work the workflow out, so they throw it through their own Hotmail account, store it in their home folder, and suddenly your business is in trouble. All of those features. So Foldr's unique ability to put field values into files, whatever storage they're in, so they can react with powerful searches, is now improved and driven because Foldr can look at the documents that are sat within whatever storage it might be, and then extract the bits of information off of them that make your workflows or your compliance or your business processes run. And of course, as we come on to the next bolt-on or whenever the next session is, we'll be talking about the MASH engine, and that can make stuff happen with those pieces. It can power our workflows, it can send data elsewhere, it can interact with specific AI endpoints as well, so it can do its own thing. So guys, I don't know if there's any questions. I think we've probably got 5 minutes. We've ranted through that as quickly as we can, basically trying to tell you, if you've got files, they've got data in them, and you want to get the data out, we've got a bunch of ways of doing it.
We do have 5 minutes left, and we have had one question come in.
Okay.
So the question is there the ability for Foldr to capture invoices from an email inbox and automatically pull the metadata from a PDF attachment into an accountancy package, removing the need for someone to move each invoice into repository fast?
So exactly that, guys. So let's just show you a quick thing. If you watched last time, you may recall that we were talking about sharing. So let me throw a thing in here. Let's search as AP inbox. Let's do it live. There's nothing better than doing it live. Excuse my typing. Okay, I'm going to do that. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that that location, that specific bit of storage, that can receive emails, and I'm going to count. There we go. I'm going to update that. Now you'll see that Foldr actually has an email address. Okay, now this obviously is our Virgil appliance, but yours would, if it was a fast instance or an online instance, it would be, you know, your company .foldr.online or whatever it might be. But in this case, this is our email address. I won't email anything into there right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an invoice and I'm going to throw it in there as if it's been received as an email, and I'm going to wait, and in a minute you'll see that the AI is going to drive that. We'll come back to it because we've only got 3 minutes left. And what you'll see here as well, this is another one of my appliances. This is Brains. This is how I've got my accounts payable set up, and you'll see that what I can do here is I can look at an invoice. Let's just change this, okay, to this. You can see it's been extracted via AWS, and if I run that to approved, what I can do, I could do it automatically. You can see that it's been paid, and the reason it's been paid, as it popped up, is if I look at data export, I'm doing this here. So you can see it a few seconds ago, I had it extract the data, very simple lines here. So they could be imported into an accounts payable package, but they could also go to a database. They could go to an API of an accounts application. For example, internally, we're using Xero, but we've done projects for countless different accounts applications. So hopefully that answers that question, because rather than just say it, we showed it. And there you go. There's my invoice extraction. That's happened into the subfolder that I created during the show. The show. Drop the mic, I think. Live demo. Gotta love that. Created from scratch. Any other questions?
Lovely. No more questions that have popped up in the Q&A section. So that looks like we've covered all of that off.
That's probably because they just want me to stop talking, Diane, isn't it? That's what nobody asking anything.
If you watch the recording back, don't put it on double speed, because it'll sound like Mickey Mouse is doing the presentation. So it'd be that fast.
Anyway, sounds like that anyway.
No, but as we've said before, the team here at Selectec are always more than willing to go through these kind of things in more details with your sales teams, and we can also jump on end user demonstration calls as well. So please do reach out to myself, Lee, Max, Ben, Damien, any of the technical guys that you may have relationships with. Please do use us, and ask the questions and get us involved at the earliest opportunity if it's a prospect that you've got already on your books, or even a new customer. So use us, abuse us, we're here to help you out. I think we've even got a few seconds spare, so I'm not going to be generous and give you half an hour of your time back, guys, but you might get 30 seconds.
There you go. Also, for whoever it was who was talking about accounts payable just a little minute ago, same appliance, and you'll see the file that I just dropped in there has now worked for a three-way match. So it's checked out the purchase order, it's validated the delivery note, and it's showing me that there's a supplier invoice. So all of that's happening within a Foldr appliance. We could talk about the difference between this and other EDM platforms. It's a very different strategy, but there it is.